Hey, since Lou has joined us, we can now officially get underway. How you doing, Lou? We're just giving you a hard time. I think everyone's clocks were maybe 30 seconds or a minute out of sync today, but it is Thursday, May 21st. Welcome to today's daily briefing, where we're going to continue to gather this community of owners of creative firms, whether it's production or animation, motion, sound, whatever it is that you do. Tim and I always appreciate this opportunity to get together with you and process and help however we can. So Tim, say hello and tell us again, why in the world are we here?
I love it. Hey, good to see you guys on this Thursday. I know we're kind of wrapping up the daily briefing. We still have a few more topics under our sleeve. So Joel and I will probably keep this going through early next week. And then when the Revolve mastermind kicks in, to be honest, we're just going to have to be smart with our time. So we'll do the best we can to keep up with some topics and keep you posted. But it is great to be with you. The work that we do helps you thrive in business, life, and career. And we're thankful that you're part of what we're doing every day. So thanks for being part of this.
By the way, apologies to Dallas. I was going to wear my spiffy de facto shirt that he sent me, and I had to do a change of venue and left it at the house. So sorry, Dallas. But greetings, everyone. Tim, today, I think this is going to be a conversation that's going to frustrate people at first, because I know it always frustrates me and kind of ticks me off. But there's a silver lining to all of this if we hang with this. But it's this idea of everyone's talking about the new normal, or hey, a new paradigm is emerging, or there's a new economy. And we've used that language. So, in fairness, we know that the earth is shifting underneath our feet. But one of my clients, Rob at Stimulated in Burbank, he was in my confab group yesterday, and it was so interesting because he told this story. I've been in the business 25 years. I went through the dot-com bubble. I went through the 08, 09 recession. Everything changed on me several times over. And every time there was a announcement of a new paradigm was coming. And he said, you know what the new paradigm is? Work harder for less.
That's right.
But to Rob's credit, he said, and you know what? I'm fine with that. That's always been the way it is. It's always going to be the way it is. I call this the process of ephemeralization, which was this term, Ethan, maybe you can find it, that was coined by Buckminster Fuller. It's this idea of eventually you can do more and more with less and less until you can do everything with nothing. So Tim, once we recognize that we're on that journey, maybe there's a different story we can tell, but in the short term, it sucks. Let's just call it what it is.
Yeah, and I think the sucky kind of part of this is really just a feeling. I guess the question we want to ask is like, is that a legitimate feeling? Because would we really want a answering machine and a phone attached to a wall with a cable, or would we rather have our iPhone? And you think about all the switchboard operators that had to disappear and all the work that used to happen in order to get those phones set up. And now, the technology changes, we advance, we can do something greater. So we do love the benefit of the advance. But as the entrepreneur, I think the question is, or the burden over our head really is the thought of like reinventing. What we want is our hard work to last forever. Wouldn't that be great? But the curse is real, and the hard work is a genuine part of what we have to do in this world. So the process, or the ability to kind of adapt, change, and even see opportunity is a greater blessing than wishing it away. And I think that's what I heard Rob say in the conversation you're having with him, and really the opportunity we have in hand. Let me make this practical. I was talking to Marcel yesterday. He's back to work. He's taking on projects. He's trying to figure out who's going to come into work. And he has some new projects, but the parameters around those projects, are a little bit less money than he would have expected, a few months ago. And trying to find folks, there was a little bit of tension of how much they would cost, and now trying to fit, those expenses into the new budget. And that's like the practical reality. Like, how are we going to understand how this new economy is going to have to restructure some old expenses that we've had around?
Oh, and here, thank you, Ethan. You posted the quote there from Buckminster Fuller. I remember hearing about this when I was at DDD in Milan with you, Tim, and this term popped up, and I realized, oh my gosh, that's it. That's what's been happening. But it's been happening our whole lives. I'm thinking of the classic marketing example that you learned in marketing school about the people that were making buggy whips. You know,
Yeah.
they didn't realize that they were in the transportation business. It's the same idea, right? That you may be in the live action business, and now you're realizing I just got disrupted. I can't charge what I used to charge for live action. Well, once you realize, wait a minute, maybe I was in the storytelling business, and you somehow take a different perspective, you realize I can still create value and generate profit and margin and have a thriving business, but I'm going to have to redefine and adjust. And I think it's really the change, it's the disruption that as humans, we just don't like change, especially when it comes with risk of loss, right? Money or comfort or what have you. But obviously everybody here that started a creative firm, you got into a game called innovate and the world will respond. If you create something that's valuable, people will respond. So I think that's sort of our big encouragement here, but let's open it up to the folks that are here. Are you already sensing this is inevitable, that we're going to go through into a new paradigm where it's work harder for less? Does that bother you? Does that concern you? Or do you think things will just get back to normal like they were a few months before the pandemic? That's kind of what I'm curious to hear from everyone here. But Tim, what are you reading here in the comments?
I know. Well, the comments are great. I actually kind of picked up this book. His book is called Eat People by Andy Kessler. It's the kind of popped into my mind as we're doing this. If you want to know how difficult this is to read, my 12-year-old is reading this right now. And he and I were having a conversation last night about some of the concepts in here. And I was telling about in my time in my career, and I'm going to totally show my age here, but they were watching a John Wayne movie, and I'm not that old, but my kids were watching a John Wayne movie, and they saw a matte painting in the movie, and they kind of chuckled because they said, wow, that's like, there's like a horses running over a bridge, and then there's an actual painting, clearly not a photographic shot. And I explained to them what it took to kind of put that together, and realizing it probably took 20 to 25 people to put that shot together, from the DPs to the compositors to the painters to the DPs again, the film crew, even the film processing plant that was in place in order to make that composite take place. And now one person on a computer can do that in a day or two and deliver that shot over the internet. Like, no one's driving it, no one's processing it. And the concept that the technology could shorten the timeline of work and make it more efficient, of course, the price of that is not going to remain the same. That doesn't make any sense. If you had 25 people over a few weeks to make a shot, and now you can do it in 3 days on a computer from your house, the economics are going to change. So the Eat People principle is that the idea that technology is converting some of the work or eating the jobs that existed in our industry. It's some of what we really love about it. And honestly, most of us now, if not all of us now, appreciate it because none of us are sitting behind a film compositor machine and processing film in order to get our work done. And we're not scratching letters off of a sheet onto a piece of glass in order to do title compositing. We're using a font on a Mac on software that does, editing and compositing and color correcting all in one spot. It's pretty awesome. And we've made a career from it. So in a new economy, we're actually looking for that same shift. And the thinking behind that allows you to take some risk. Or what we were saying earlier is tells you where to place your bets. What bets should I place for my future? What's the understanding of where it's going to go? That's a smart way of thinking where the industry is going to move.
Well, so first of all, I always wanted to work on a moviola. So I'm not sure if your theory is totally correct, but
I know moviolas are great. Yes.
Well, no, I'll give one example to folks here, because this maybe is also dating me. But when I got into the industry, I was working on giant silicon graphics workstations running flames and smokes, and everything was so expensive. And, old timers like me love to tell those stories of the good old days when it took days to render one frame and stuff. But what's interesting is when the digital desktop disruption, revolution, et cetera, happened in the early 2000s, I had to navigate that. And I was like, how can I move from making $700-800 an hour down to $125 an hour? There's no way. But guess what? We did it, and we made it through it, and we were very profitable. In fact, our most successful years were the years after that,
Yeah.
because the tools, the technologies, the talent had all risen, and we were innovating in new ways. And I think what's funny too, Tim, is I think of all the disruption that's happened in the years since. And now you and I work with these companies that I was mad at when I was running my company, because these were all the youngsters that were coming in and trying to steal the work, and they were doing it for less, and they were doing it on After Effects instead of Flame, and that made me mad. But now these are all the people I work with, and they're incredible, and they're innovative, and they succeed very, very well. So I know it can be done. We're just going to have to go through this process again.
Yeah, Ethan and I are working on a video. He sent me a link to Frame.io. So he gets done. He sends it to my cell phone. I can look at the edit, give him notes on the edit, almost like modify the edit from my phone and send it back to him. Holy cow, that would have been 4 days in an online suite, right? Okay, let's read this. Dave Veal said this. I like this, what he's processing here. He says, what I think will happen is decentralization. We've always been decentralized to compete at a lower price structure than our old large firms, right? I've heard now that some of these firms will probably never go back to the brick and mortar. Good news, by the way. If you got my email this morning, you know where my mind is going that way. Like, don't keep your day job. That alarms us, though, from the downward price pressure. We've always known that's coming. And you're right. So there's this idea that there was a sense of value, that you were buying an office space or renting an office space, putting a lot of bodies in there. And your clients used to say, hey, if you work from home, if you are decentralized, that's not legitimate. What's required in perceived value is that you have to be under one roof and do all that work under one roof. And if you're not willing to do that, then you're not stepping up in the economy. Totally different rules today. And amazing. This is so great. Really, if you said, I'm going back to work tomorrow, those same clients would say, shame on you. Shame on you, you selfish person, going into the office, sitting at a computer 8 hours, holding everybody hostage in that space. Go out, go sit at home, do this in a more efficient way, and don't pay that rent. That's what shifted in the last 6, 8, 10 weeks for us. The rules have changed and we can see things differently, but the economics are going to follow. The efficiencies are going to be there as well, and we can make new rules and have a new understanding.
Yeah, I'm actually looking at this article. I thought there was a cool bit in the news. I didn't see it until today, but I think it's from a couple of days ago, that Twitter announced that they are essentially approving or okaying everyone to work from home indefinitely. And I thought, oh, okay, there it is. That's a sort of a watershed moment when a large technology company says, you know what, this is actually working so well for us, keep it going. So we got disrupted, but this new way is somehow better. And I'm guessing if you're in the San Francisco Bay Area, anything that prevents thousands of people having to commute to come to your office, like, yeah. So this is perhaps one of those silver linings. And here's the question I want maybe, Tim, for you and I to ask, and let's see if anyone here has ideas on this. The conversation I had with Rob from Stimulated yesterday, he was saying, yes, every time disruptions happened, it hasn't stopped me from placing bets. And he and I have been through this together for many years because we've been working together for a long time, where I've seen he and I find an opportunity and we say, you know, it's going to cost us some money. We may not see a return, but we really believe in it. We're very passionate about this crazy thing. We place that bet and it goes okay. But then surprisingly, a year later or 2 years later, something else shows up. But that doesn't feel like that's enough. I don't know that that's enough. I could tell somebody, hey, place calculated bets out there. Do you have any thoughts on people that are saying, yeah, but what do you mean by that? Or how do I figure out what does it mean for me to place bets into the future? Do you have
Yeah,
any
what's
thoughts?
interesting is, and Joel, you fell into this same thinking towards the end of Impossible 2. I can't tell you how many times in the last 12 years people have come to the conclusion that they don't need to have a business. What they'll do is they'll capture work in the front door, and then they'll outsource the work. They'll bring on freelancers as need be. They don't need to have any formal structure. We call those micro boutiques, right? Like there's these small little boutiques that can kind of work that way. But the economy around us, or the competition around us, was making that idea um, non-legitimate. You know, your clients would rewrite through and like, oh, you're actually not a real business. You're basically just a freelancer, or you're stacking yourself as a solopreneur, not an actual entrepreneur, dealing with bigger principles. There is like a window now where we can see that that's more possible. No one's asking your address or where you're going to be, or people working from home has been the norm for 8 weeks. And there will be some opportunity to kind of keep some of that structure. But here's what I also know, that people will want to go back to work, or the people that go back to work will gain a different kind of efficiency than those that are sitting at their homes. So there has to be now principles in place. If I'm going to place a bet, I now know I need to work towards the efficiencies of my business, regardless of where someone's sitting. So what do those investments look like? What people, and possibly new people, do you need to put in place? I almost think like, do you need to hire a coder, someone that actually knows software technology, and have that person be a primary role in your business instead of a secondary role, or just outsourcing that thought process to third-party vendors? But have someone that's writing things and creating efficiencies, if that's going to be a principle, so that you can keep up or compete in the field. Those are areas that I'm thinking and kind of processing through what's going to be necessary. I don't think you have to be sitting in the office. I think you can avoid the commute. I think that you can interact with your kids during the day. That's going to be true, but you can't, you're going to have to be competitive as well.
Yeah, you're reminding me, because as you talked, I thought, oh yeah, here's a pattern. Here's a tip or a suggestion that I would give everyone is look inward inside your firm and ask yourself, what problem have we solved for us that would be of value to perhaps the outside world? Because this is a repeating pattern that you and I have seen, Tim, where our clients will create a system, a process, a piece of software, some method where they have some expertise just to make their work better or process better or something. And then they wake up one day and realize, wow, this is incredible. This allows us to do work in new ways, but maybe we even take this thing and open it up to the public or license it or other things. So that might be one suggestion for people to think of is, what is it that you are, what are the problems that you are solving in ways that other people haven't, that gives you an edge and that gives you an advantage? And now ask yourself, how might that thing come from the back burner to the front burner in this new economy we keep talking about?
Yeah, listen to this quote. I love this thinking, because this is really turning things on its head. And this is where we want to go kind of with this thought. So this, again, from the Eat People book. He says this: now that machines are adapting to humans, it's time for us to think more and more about us humanoids, what we do, what kind of jobs we have, and how society can be best utilize living, breathing humans to increase the standard of living. So he's saying, hey, now that machines could process the work that we used to do, we are actually living, breathing, thinking human beings that understand how to increase the value of something. There are things that machines can't replace. He said, I have a lot of time thinking about this. And my conclusion, the best way to lever abundance and scale is simple: get rid of people. And I think that comes across harsh, but if you think about what he's processing, is saying the number of bodies to get a job done is not the goal of the future. Oh, I have 100 people digging that ditch instead of I have one machine that digs it 5 times faster than you do it. This is maybe the old John Henry cartoon we used to watch as a kid, right? There's just a reality of like what's happening here. So, but what's important to realize is the value of the people. So when we think of our value pyramid, And you're afraid because the commodities that you've been stacking as a service business are changing in value and price and service. You have to look up that value pyramid and start thinking about what you can do as a human: strategy, vision, concept, and put your effort into that work. You know, imagine like not stacking up every type of utility possible in a certain address on Hollywood Boulevard, but really thinking through what can only be done inside of you and your creative team, and be able to put and understand how to put that value out there, how to present that better, how to understand that better, how to market yourself better in that way. And not just list, as we don't like on websites, just list all the things you do or all the things you're capable of doing. 3D, 2D editorial animation live action company that also does storytelling in the creative, blah, 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 blah. We got to get rid of our thinking that way and improve our own workload. And honestly, we have a small group of people listening to us right now. You will be the leaders. The people that aren't thinking this way, aren't doing it this way, are the ones that will be left behind as the economy shifts and it wipes out their old-fashioned value pyramid.
Yeah, in fact, I was going to share this, Tim, because people might be wondering, what is this value pyramid concept? I was trying to upload an image. I can't upload it, but I can share my screen. So let me show you our little keynote. This is a really interesting concept. And this is where I talked about ephemeralization, which is a very fancy word. I sound very erudite when I say that word.
I like that word for that reason.
But I want, notice over here on the right, you see these commodities, services, strategy, vision. I think this is what's happening is what was yesterday's service is tomorrow's commodity. And this is this process that keeps happening, is the things that are, as you merge together commodities, you create services. As you bring together services, you create strategy. And as you bring together strategy, you have something much bigger called vision. But over time, all these things are trickling down or evolving down. I'm not sure what the word is there, Tim, but this idea that, gosh, 20 years ago, if you could do 3D animation, that was incredible. That was almost a strategy, but today it's just a commodity. So over time, this is the process that's happening. So this might give some thought here of what is it that you're selling? And maybe what you used to be selling that used to be strategy is now just an everyday service, or even worse, maybe now it's a commodity. So it's time to rethink it, but you can still create value. What was the quote about the sandbox, Tim? Do you want to share that one from the book?
That was a great one. Let me find it because it was very funny. It's like, give me a sandbox big enough, and I'll find the area that's not being used as kitty litter. Right? It's this thought of like, why are we only focusing on the small parts, the parts that are full of crap, right? Literally, instead of looking at the entire pie and knowing where the good stuff is laying. And to your point, Joy, and I think what Kessler likes is he likes to think through it. It's not getting rid of people like layoffs, but it's thinking through the process of the value of people. Why are we just using the human effort to do tasks that a computer can do more efficiently? Let's use the human mind to think differently and process differently. That's really where we want to go, especially in the creative field, isn't it? That's what we're playing with. That's what we're striving for. And the other idea I like comes from the E-Myth, where it says work on your business, not in your business. That's another way of getting out of the commodity side of your job. If you're worried about keeping your job and staying busy, then you're deep inside of that business that's becoming commoditized. If you're working on your business, you're thinking about the real value you present. You can position that out there in the field, and you can work on those and even build and improve those over time. That's even a long-term strategy for your career that you can live out longer in career, because you can pass things on. You can scale in thought, not just people and money, and you can increase your influence by working on that, studying, reading books, understanding people, processing, building systems, routines, methods. All that stuff allows you to keep on building and growing that value.
I also want to give this thought too, that I was talking with a client yesterday, and we were processing this question of where do we go now? He's actually having a great year. And Tim, I was sort of taking your advice, like now isn't a way at the time to make a move or to strike potentially. And what we talked about was, you know what, going after brands and getting into brands and going through the back door and having conversations where we can, instead of these short-term deals that we do with entertainment companies or with ad agencies, let's go talk to the big brands. And I very much agreed. Yes, now's the time for us to do this, because you know what? All the brands of the world right now are just like you and I, wondering what's next. Everyone's asking questions. There's a certain curiosity and openness. I don't have to work with the big brick and mortar, whatever thing. So let's start that conversation. So we spent the rest of our time sitting down and saying, okay, what does it look like to create a marketing and sales system? But guess what? That owner needs something else that's hard, and that is confidence. Because it may be time for you to get out of your comfort zone, put yourself out there, and go talk to somebody at a brand, for example, and be bold and say, I can solve that problem, even if you've maybe never done it before, because this is the heart of innovation. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I just sold it. And then you come back to your team and say, okay, now we got to figure out how to do this amazing thing.
You preach it, Joel. You know, it reminds me of the conversation we had with Megan Wells, and like how she's a director trying to recognize what the field looks like for herself. And she thought more about the process, the philosophy, the principles necessary, and then walking into client meetings with a solution, then waiting for that client to say, pick me, pick me, pick me. And she's one of many on a roster. It's a very kind of foolish way to imagine how to position yourself in a field. What you want to be able to do is put your best foot forward and your thought process forward. And
how cool is it that Megan also she's been gradually establishing herself as a thought leader. Like, she actually has a point of view and an expertise that she now can communicate very fluently. And I love that about her. If I was on the receiving end of someone like her reaching out and saying, hey, I think I can help you solve this problem, just that, how articulate she is. She has a very refined point of view. I'm gonna take that opportunity to have that conversation with her.
Yeah, if you didn't watch that daily briefing, make sure you go back to the replays that we have and watch and listen to what we're talking about, because I think there's something very specific. And again, the encouragement for us, I think, is to really start recognizing the principles and values that you have in people. Here's a failure. If you want a failure, here's a good failure. Listen to everything we're saying and then hear it as go outsource. So, you know, the people in the United States are too expensive. Let me just go find cheap, good people to deal with this economic gap. Total failure. Because what you haven't done is found the value of people. You just found cheaper people. You're better off recognizing, sure, there are great people all over the planet that can provide value to your clients with different capabilities and different prices, of course. But to just take the commodity and pass that burden on to another group of people because the economics might be different, very foolish and very short-term in thinking, opposed to recognize the opportunity and value of any human and then build them up regardless of price. And of course, you're, as a job, there's no doubt, buy low, sell high is how we do business. Spend less than you make is a necessity to stay into business. So the economics are part of it, or the financial principles are part of it. But you want to be always recognizing what you're doing to build up value, build up others, and grow. That's, if I'm going to place a bet, that's going to be on the people. I got to find the people, got to find the right people. I got to get the right people on the bus, and I'm going to get to the destination I want to get to.
So one thing I really hope we can do in Revolve is that as we near the end of that 4-week conversation, is have a moment where, as a group, all the peers can get together and in a sense, pitch each other. Like, here's my strategy going forward. Here's that thing that's always been on the back burner that I'm going to finally bring to the front burner. Or, you know what? I'm going to go after brands, and here's how I'm going to do it. And to get that interaction, that feedback, that harsh critique, right? Because somebody might have a strategy called, I'm going to go hire cheap labor. You know, I'm going to go hire people in India. And the room might say, no, that's not valuing people. That's not really a sound strategy for the future. That's just a short-term, commoditization play. But anyways, I think there's just going to be moments in this process where taking people through this journey and like, hey, let's figure this out together. It's going to be fun.
And who better to do with than other business owners that are thinking and processing like you? And then of course, us Rev thinkers to make sure that you're doing it right. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, nice.
No, but there truly begins the process of getting it out of your mind, out of your head. And I think this focus, I can't put enough emphasis on the timing of Revolve. We're putting that time and effort into it to build this program because the time is now to do it. And for you to be able to write a specific business plan, execute those parts, and then have a peer group to process that with and get it out there, it truly is the thing you need in this moment. So that I can feel the pressure building as we do it. Joel, every time you and I put another kind of thought process and something out on paper, it just explodes. The hardest thing you and I are going to have is kind of keeping it all contained within the sessions because there's too much to talk about and we want to be as specific as possible. Maybe we're gonna have to build a couple follow-up programs to at least capture some of these other thoughts out there.
All right, so I know we're out of time. We're 2 minutes past, but Tim, bookmark. So I think Marcel is going to be back with us tomorrow, and we should ask him this question about everyone as peers coming together and pitching each other their ideas, because I know one thing he's really passionate about is potential, call it matchmaking and peer collaborations, and hey, your shop can work with my shop and we'll go do this together. Maybe that's part of what will come out of the process and Revolve is some companies will say, you know what, your chocolate, my peanut butter, let's go make something delicious together.
Yeah, and there's really the collaboration and growth that comes. What we know is that there's going to be small waves carrying people forward. I think the collaboration, the creative edge, the opportunities to build, that's going to be part of the conversation. We want that to be built out in everything that we're doing. I can't wait for Marcel to join us tomorrow. He's going to be, he likes to shake things up, and it'll be a good kind of wrap up to our week. Tomorrow will be an Ask Me Anything too. So we'll let Marcel kind of get us started and then kind of beat us up a little bit along the way.
All right, sounds good. Well, thanks for the comments and for folks chiming in. And Megan, you're welcome. It's good to have you here with us as well.
Hey, Meg.
Quietly in the audience there. But thanks everyone for being part of the daily briefing today. So tomorrow, Friday, we'll do an Ask Me Anything, and then I'm guessing next week we'll do Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, maybe Thursday. We'll figure that out. But
Wednesday's our kickoff. Wednesday night's a kickoff for Revolve.
Wednesday is,
and Thursdays there's the private cohort. So we'll be busy next week.
Yeah, next week's going to be busy. All right, well, everyone, you can watch your inboxes, and of course, we'll be dropping announcements in 7 Ingredients as well. Until tomorrow, everyone have a great Thursday. Thanks for being here. Tim, I'll see you tomorrow, and tell Marcel, be ready.
I'll tell him.
Okay, bye everyone.